let's talk about this little creepy Michael Jackson. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about Michael Jackson, but it is a slow music news day. We know that he was pulled off of some radio stations. The story behind that, we did a morning show with Anthony podcast. You can find that up at wehm.com under the on air tab. Click on Anthony. You'll see our thoughts on that. It wasn't as like worldly as you think it is. It was more like New Zealand stations are pulling Michael Jackson off the air. But I would love to do a study of this and see how many stations are legit still playing him after the Leaving Neverland documentary. I would imagine not many. Some people are kind of like, I'm standing by him, but I see more of that on Twitter than I do. Like, I don't see many corporations like, we're sticking with it. I just don't know. I could ask some of my radio friends who have, like the easy listening stations that used to play Michael, if they're still playing him. The weird thing is, I think that if he's disappearing from playlists, it's being done quietly, like it's not being done in defiance. So we talked about that. We talked about The Simpsons and how they decided to take the Michael Jackson episode out of rotation. There were some creepy things to that. I remember, like, I don't know, he was like friends with Bart or something and wrote a song with him in the bit. I don't know. It got a little weird in that episode. A little too close to home with the allegations and things that are in Leaving Neverland. I still have to say the word allegation, by the way, just so you know. Now, and again, to my point of like people aren't like sticking up for the Michael Jackson thing, enter Madame Tussauds, and they are saying that let me see here. In a statement to TMZ, a spokesperson for Madame Tussauds said, the Michael Jackson figures on display at Madame Tussauds reflect profiles that have an impact on popular culture and that visitors expect to see. Michael Jackson has been and is currently a feature of Madame Tussauds attractions around the world. We regularly monitor our choice of figures on display based on external events and visitor feedback. It will be kept on display for the foreseeable future. That means that as of right now in London, New York, Shanghai, and Sydney, the figures along with other locations are still there. Let's see here. So Madame Tussauds is sticking with it. Now, this is interesting because I feel like once this story pops up, we are literally putting a clock on things. Because if you've noticed the trend, and sometimes rightfully so, and sometimes not so much, so this is not a blanket statement, but the trend, case in point, the Ryan Adams stuff, right? We talked about Ryan Adams and the allegations against him, and there was this European tour, and they were like, well, we're not canceling the European tour. And it was put together by a promoter, meaning the promoter rented out the venues, the big arenas and halls and whatever. And so people were like, I want my money back. I'm not going to support this guy. And the arenas are like, it's not up to us. I know you're coming to see the show here, but those aren't our tickets. It's the promoters. We rented the joint out. Who the hell knows who the promoters are? It was something. And how could you get in touch with them? And they were like, we're not canceling. And that was the story for a couple of days until the pressure mounted so much that they canceled. So I find it interesting that Madame Tussauds, people are in, public relations, they should know, like, just, but I guess if you get pressed on the question, you got to answer it. They're like, yeah, we're going to leave them there. Like, how many days until how many tweets? 10? 20? Like, what's the number? Because you're going to get 500,000 tweets at Madame Tussauds to take this stuff down. So how long can we start the countdown? And I'm not complaining here, like, I'm not like defending Michael Jackson. Like, don't take it as that. I'm just saying from a public relations standpoint, you see some of these statements and you're like, how crazy can you be? You know you're going to get pressure now. You know when the story breaks that they're keeping up these. And by the way, we have it's creepy looking. I mean, that's a creepy looking wax statue. I got it over my shoulder here in the studio, and I'm a little uncomfortable, and I know it's on my screen. I still feel like it might pop out and grab me. It's a little creepy. Now I'm getting in my own head. But the thing is, with the wax statues, like it's almost different from music and the Simpsons episode. Like, what were the odds you were going to run into the Simpsons episode? Probably not that great. unless you obsess over Simpsons reruns, which I know a lot of people do, most of the people in the world probably wouldn't have ran into that episode, yet the Simpsons people were like, creepy. A lot of people roll through Madame Tussauds all over the place. I was just down in Florida. We took my parents went out and bought aquarium tickets. They're like, we'll take baby Cuddles to the aquarium, loves to the fish, and I had a blast. We get to the aquarium. What's right there? It's in the same building. What was right there? Madame Tussauds. Thank God we didn't go in there. If we would have seen the Michael Jackson thing, he would have never. He was a little freaked out by some of the octopuses and jellyfish. Could you imagine if he saw Michael Jackson? We would have never gotten that kid to sleep again. It's just creepy. He's just staring at me here in the EHM studio. All right, I'm uncomfortable. Let's end it there. Interesting that Madame Tussauds wants to leave it up. You know, I mean, it's kind of like, it's bizarre how these things happen, but there are people that just, you know, they love to complain, and they're going to hop all over them, and they're going to feel that pressure, and they're going to eventually take these down. I mean, you want to start a pool? Couple weeks? Jen, you want to make a bet? How long do we give the Michael Jackson statues? If there's a Michael Jackson statue up in these museums in April, I would be shocked. I'm giving them 9 days. What am I giving them? Right. 7 to 9 days? I mean, because there's a weekend involved here, so there'll be that. And then next week. It'll be gone by next week. All of them. All right, we'll start the clock right now. Put 9 days on the clock. All right, that's it for the Michael Jackson thing. We'll take a break here, come back on the other side, another long set, finishing nice and strong here. Some Coldplay, some Death Cab, some Tedeschi Trucks. Music you can't hear anywhere else, but right here on 92.9 and 96.9 EHM.